Hello, I'm author Mara Purl, and I'm going to share with you my June newsletter podcast, Readership. This is the R word for the month of June. Why do we read? Is it important? Is it less important now than when it used to be? Or is it more important than ever? What kind of difference in a reader's life can a good book make? All these are part of the musings in the author community about readership. Do you remember the very first book you read? Did a whole secret world open up for you as you did? Were you lucky enough to be read to as a small child? How did the transition feel when you began instead reading for yourself? My parents read to me. Since both were actors, their readings were magnificent performances, each character having its own unique voice. No doubt this is why I'm an audible narrator these days. One of my earliest book memories was discovering in the library a book titled Mara, Daughter of the Nile. This book had my name on the cover. I had to read it. When my mother and I brought it to the checkout counter, the librarian said I could sign out my other books, but not that one. How come? I asked. Because you're not old enough to read at that level. My mother suggested that I open to a page and read it for the librarian, which I did. I had no trouble with the text. The librarian was shocked. How old are you? She demanded. I'm 3 years old, I proudly declared. We went home with the book, which I found fascinating. I later learned I was at the time the youngest reader in town. It's no wonder I feel so strongly about reading. What's so great about it, really? Reading is quiet, one of the few quiet things in a noisy world. Finding or creating a quiet place in our lives soothes the senses and nurtures the soul. That addresses the external aspect, but the inner quiet is important too. To be able to concentrate and absorb what we're reading, we need an inner stillness that enables us to hear, feel, and perceive at a much deeper level. This is where we find our own sense of peace and purpose, and learn how to access this inner listening regularly. I created something I call Mara's Reader Meter. At one end are books that can be classified as pure escape, and we all need this sometimes. At the other end are the Improve My Mind books. Somewhere near the middle are books with large doses of both these qualities. This is what I aim for in my own writing. Research that provides my readers with interesting information they likely wouldn't discover on their own, and compelling storylines that set you on a magic carpet ride into another world. By the way, this is what my fellow authors offer in our summer reading tour. I encourage you to seek out the special events that are designed for readers. The LA Times Festival of Books is a prime example, a once-a-year weekend bonanza of book and author discovery with presentations and hundreds of booths. There's a similar event in Washington, D.C., and one in Tucson. There are smaller events in many parts of the country. Of course, I encourage visits to your local library, which is full of undiscovered treasures. And visit your local indie bookstore or Barnes & Noble branch for the latest trends and for a visual feast of well-designed book covers, a sort of walk through a gallery of small paintings. I highly recommend finding yourself a reading nook, your own private escape zone. It might be a corner of the couch, a chair on your balcony, or just some plumped pillows before you go to sleep at night. Readership defined. 1. The readers of a newspaper, magazine, or book regarded collectively. 2. The position of reader at a university, church, or organization. If you haven't had a chance to read aloud for others, it's a beautiful challenge that inspires growth and connection. This is one of my favorite things. But the first definition is what really interests me. Why? Because while there are many things we must do on our own, there are also amazing things we can only do collectively. This is where the sum of us is more than the parts. We absorb wisdom and energy from each other, and our thoughts and ideas soar higher and go deeper than ever. From this higher standpoint, we can accomplish huge things, like healing global warming, for example. What wonderful new books will you discover this summer? And what readership collective will you join to add to your store of wisdom and insight, peace and purpose? I wish you joy in your readership journey. Happy June. Happy summer. Happy reading.